The Sports Source is brought to you by Fast Frame, with exciting Vol sports prints now available.
You are watching East Tennessee's first and only year-round sports talk show on television. This is The Sports Source with your host, John Pennington.
Good Sunday morning and welcome into the Sports Source presented by Bill Hotz and Associates. We appreciate you joining us today. We've got, with spring practice kicking off this week, we've got tons of all football to discuss in terms of realistic expectations for the year, what are best case, worst case scenarios. We'll also talk a little bit about the evolution of Butch Jones. Matter of fact, we'll start with that. So let's get right into it. First segment of today's show brought to you, of course, by Bill Hotz and Associates. Folks, if you're injured in an accident, knocked out of work, buried in medical bills, co-pays, deductibles, it's your right to recoup that money if the other driver is at fault. To do that, turn to Bill Hotz and Associates. More than 30 years of experience in car wreck cases. Bill Hotz and Associates. All right, I want to welcome in the panelists for the day. We have right here Bob Hodge, Josh Ward, Jimmy Himes, and right down there Mike Strange. Good to have all of you here today. As I said, there's tons of football talk in today's show, but I want to start with Butch Jones. Let's go ahead and put up the little graphic. Look, he's even pointing to it. Jones has made a number of changes all over his staff following a 9-4 top 25 season, which, 9-4 top 25, I know it wasn't satisfactory for most folks around here considering the expectations, but to have as many changes as he made, a little unusual. He's made changes all across the board. He's talked about making it a very physical, very competitive spring practice regardless of injuries. He's bragged repeatedly about new strength coach Rock Gullickson, and he's not using the bullhorn in practice as much as he used to. Guys, it would seem that he's learning lessons, adapting, changing from the past and maybe from some past mistakes. So the question, if you agree he is evolving, is it a good thing that he's changing, learning, or is it a bad thing that he's having to do this on the job?
Give you my answer first, and then come back for discussion. Good thing.
Good thing. Okay, guys.
I think it's a good thing. And look, a lot of coaches evolve. Even if you look at Nick Saban evolving, he decided to get away from just the pro style, run it, eat the clock, to where he went a little bit faster with his offense. And one reason he did that, one, he could score more points, but secondly, to allow his defense to see it more in practice to help that way. Heck, Bear Bryant evolved. He went 6-5 2 years in a row and said, enough of that offense, we're going to the wishbone. So even great coaches evolve, and I do think that I think that's something that I wouldn't criticize him at all for that. You're better evolving into trying to be more successful than staying pat.
You come from Central Michigan in the MAC then to Cincinnati, then to Tennessee. Yeah, you better evolve. Better learn on the job, evolving, whatever you want to call it. It's necessary.
Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backward, right? And with Butch Jones, really, I mean, he has a good amount of years left in his career, realistically. So, looking at 9-4, and there were some good, there was some bad from this past season. There were high moments with wins against Florida and Georgia, low moments, losses to Vanderbilt, South Carolina. I think Butch Jones looked at that and said, hey, something has to change. The strength program especially, I would probably start there with what was absolutely necessary to change.
Bob.
I've always thought that the coaches that bother me the most are the ones that say, I do what I do, right. We're going to do what we do. And they've had, a lot of these coaches have had great success. I mean, in the college ranks and in the NFL, all over. But the game does change, and I think those coaches that love what they do to the point of passing over somebody who can come in and give you a different look, give you a different feel, they have a tendency in the long run to fail, even if they're great for a while. A coach that used to be at the Minnesota Vikings, Brian Billick, went to the Baltimore Ravens and won a Super Bowl. He had a certain style of offense. He never changed it. The NFL caught up with it, and he was fired. So I think even if you've got something that is great in 2015, it may not be great in 2017. And so the change, I think it's fantastic that he's evolved.
Well, I think to follow up on Bob's point, there's a coach in the SEC that would follow suit with that, and that's Les Miles. He wouldn't change his offense. He kept running the same thing, and where is he?
Yeah.
So that's he kind of parallels a little bit with Brian Billick.
Steve Spurrier is an example of a guy who had his system and had great success with his system at Florida, but to succeed at South Carolina, which he did for several years, had the best 3-year run they've ever had, he scrapped it and went with a different style of offense. He said, okay, we've got a running quarterback now. Let's spread them out and let this guy run a little bit rather than drop back and do the cock and fire thing that everybody thought they were getting when they hired him. I think the best coaches do evolve and change. One thing that stands out to me, Butch Jones took a lot of heat for the staff he brought here. That staff is no longer here. I mean, that's the staff he's got now on paper. Most of it looks pretty darn good. He also got ripped pretty good when he said, I've got a program in place that I win championships with it if you follow the program. I think it's clear. Am I the only one that thinks he's kind of evolved from that program? Obviously, you look at that list and other things, he's not the same guy he was holding on to the same, well, for lack of a better word, maxims that he did when he arrived. You think that's true? Or am I overstating his evolution?
No, I mean, I think when he got here, what it was that he said, best coaching staff in America.
Right.
And within 5 years, what's the percentage left of the best coaching staff in America? I mean,
One
20?
guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Now
okay,
it's
less
the
than
best
20.
staff.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think he saw what his shortcomings were, and you know, another part of the problem about not evolving is if you coach with the same guys forever, you get the same answers in meetings and watching film and watching tape and doing all that stuff that you get forever. It kind of becomes sort of a closed circle, in my opinion.
And I don't think we should make too much of the bullhorn, how much we're hearing from him in practice, but I don't think it's nothing either. I think there's something to the fact that you don't hear from Butch Jones as much, meaning the players hear from their assistant coaches, their position group coaches, so you hear more from Brady Hoke, Charlton Warren coaching the defensive backs. There's something to that. There's a reason that change was made as well.
You also have a tendency after several years, if you've been over there on campus, you start tuning that stuff out. So I think that's also about getting through to your players. Guys, you surprised that a man came in. He did win championships at Central Michigan, won a championship at Cincinnati. Came here, and while he's not going to get a lot of credit for it, he took over a program that had been in the dumps and has had 3 winning seasons in a row. I know that's not the goal. You can't say anything somewhat positive without, oh, so this is your expectation? No, it's not the expectation. But you can't deny you went from bad seasons to at least good seasons, not great.
Top 25.
But you had top 25 2 years in a row. And even with top 25 2 years in a row, he's making these changes. To me, I think he got a bad rap for being stubborn. That doesn't look like a stubborn guy to me.
No, and I think he realizes that just being in the top 25 is not going to be long-term considered success at the University of Tennessee.
Are you surprised he's changing his ways a little bit? I mean, from the way he came in, or no?
I am a little bit, and here's why. Because it didn't seem to bother him as much that Tennessee didn't win the East Division last year as I thought it would. Mm-hmm. He didn't take it like, hey, that was our goal. 9 wins isn't enough. That's not the approach he took. So based on that, I thought, well, he's not going to make a bunch of wholesale changes in the offseason. Well, he did. Now, one was an unforced error. That was a change, in my opinion, of the strength and conditioning coach. He brought that one on himself with that move. But for him to make all these moves, I think that while he didn't publicly admit 9 wins and not winning the East isn't good enough, I think this shows you that he understands that.
Well, I think all of these, you could trace every one of these back to if they were mistakes before, and some of them weren't mistakes, they were just differences, but they're all on him. So if we're looking at it saying, well, he's trying, that doesn't mean this is going to be successful. I don't think they're going to go 9-4 this year, so people aren't going to look at this and say it's success. But I do think you have to give him credit for at least attempting to move forward. Mike, anything to add?
As far as practice goes, less bullhorn, more cowbell.
More cowbell. Very good. All right. When we come back, what are realistic expectations for the 2017 season? We'll cover that a little bit later. Also, coming up next, we're going to talk about the number of returning starters. Does that tell us anything about success? And also line of scrimmage. You more concerned about the O-line or the D-line? Come on back on the Sports Source.